are live.
Yeah,
So
sounds great.
before we launch and before we really get started, I want to let everybody know that me and the original Candace Kelly are both in blue, and that is the universe creating whatever it wanted to create. It wanted to see us both in blue, and that's how we showed up.
Because I don't know how it happened when I saw you this morning in the blue, and I just like, well, I got that divine memo.
And so we are live here on YouTube. I have us going live on TikTok. I am going to be checking the comments here on my YouTube feed. So, hello, everybody.
Hey,
Now, first
everybody.
and foremost, thank you. Thank you, Auntie Candace Kelly, for coming. And we already have 16 sets of eyeballs that are tuning in. So I am thankful that we have that going on. So I want to let you introduce yourself, how you got to this point. I have talked to you, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows what we got going on. Your baseline. I know you were a former journalist. You're going into teaching. Talk to me. Give me a blurb about you.
Sure thing. Well, my name is Candace Kelly, and I started my career in journalism probably when some of you all were in high school, and maybe some of you all weren't even born yet. So I started in radio, like college radio, went into writing for the newspaper at college, got my degree in broadcast journalism. And then from there, before I graduated from college, I got a job in my local news market doing television news. So I was a reporter for many years. Then from there, I became a news anchor and traveled all around the world. I've worked in every time zone. I've gone to cover some battle overseas. And then from there, I began near the tax write off, really, because I started out so young. Like I'm 22 years old, 23 years old with billboards in cities. So my career just really took off. And so being single, being a young single woman, I needed a tax write off. So I started a nonprofit organization for girls. And it really was just going to be kind of hanging out with the kids. And then, of course, God blessed that. And it just really took off. And from there, I had to step out of TV news and start running the program and launch several chapters of that. And I'm going to be talking about that a little bit later on the next time that we go live. But I ended up launching a chapter over in Africa. And then from there, my sister passed away. That was like a huge deal. She was a very famous prima ballerina. She and I ran a ballet studio in our youth program. And suddenly in May of 2021, she just got sick and had a heart condition that I had as a child that she was never diagnosed with. And she passed away in my arms. Tried to save her and it just, she didn't make it. So it was life stopping. And I had to make some life choices because I had the media and the paparazzi because she was so vibrant and so popular. Everybody wanted to know, how did she pass away? And
Yeah.
from there, I decided to close down the ballet studio and start working toward getting a PhD. And it mainly was just to be doing something. And
Right.
in the process of getting my PhD and laying on the couch and crying over my sister, I saw an ad saying that teachers were needed. Had a friend that was a teacher at a school with many African American children. And she asked me to come help out. And then they were like, okay, you're not leaving. We want you to stay. And they made me a teacher. And I ended up really liking it. Started a news program with the kids, cheerleading squad, football team. I'm that teacher. And now here I'm back at that school. And now they're asking me if I'm interested in working for the school district and maybe being a media liaison person. So we'll see how
Okay.
that goes. But that's a little bit about me.
Before I continue, let's get out of TikTok because it is just doing too much to have both of these
Okay.
going on. So I'm
Sounds
gonna
good. I hear
take it.
echo. Yeah, there is an echo.
I'm gonna get out of
So they
that.
need to
That's
come.
not
You need to come over to Bourbon Bougie on YouTube if you want to continue this, because we're going to really get into some really good topics.
okay. So I have spoken extensively. People may or may not see some of my videos because I post so many videos every day. But I am an agnostic woman. But I believe that there is a higher power, and I believe that the universe put you or me together for whatever reason. Maybe it was because I remind you of your little sister. Maybe I was supposed to continue what you were doing as far as the girls and the women because we didn't know each other until you launched that video last year. And then we became like fast friends or some kind of bond.
Talking to
So
the
I
kids, talking about their birthday, send me pictures, talking to them.
but as you're speaking, what I love about you, what you embody, what it is to be a Black woman, how versatile we are, how it's like I'm gonna throw this obstacle and then we do this, I'm gonna throw this obstacle and then we do that. We know how to we know how to shift, we know how to shape shift, we know how to fit into whatever room that we're in, and we can thrive. That is the reason why some people have fallen apart because of the pandemic, the falling of the economy, whatever. We adjust. You sit up here, you're like, I am going through something, let me go get a PhD. Oh, there's an ad for somebody that needs help. I happen to need to help somebody because it'll make me feel better. So that's
Well, it's
just how
funny
we
because
are.
yeah, and and you do remind me so much of my sister, and you really encouraged me because I have to tell you that day that I made the hospice care. Oh, voice. I'm looking at you and I'm getting emotional because my sister had like a blue outfit and she has those beautiful cut arms like you do because being a dancer and I know you do training. And I'm looking at you and not having my glasses on, right? And I'm looking at you and I feel you look like my sister, like from like right here, you look like her. So forgive me if I'm getting a little bit choked up. But what I wanted to say is that I, was really down that day. That day, I was really down that I made the hospice care wives video. And I was already down thinking about my sister. It was around a landmark of something that had happened in her life. And my best friend flew in from I think she was over in Paris, and she flew into my city because she said, I just heard how down you were and I knew this anniversary was coming up, and I was dressed to go out to go with her. I hadn't been out the house. I was just just in the house, and she was like, look, come meet me over here. And I was on my way out the door. As I'm leaving out the door and I'm at one of my lowest points, I get a phone call from my friend, and she's telling me about her husband had dropped deceased. And he was someone that I pegged him right away of being someone who wanted to use her because
Yeah,
he was down on his luck, living with his mother. And she meets him, and all of a sudden, well, he wants to get married and move in together. No, he wants to come live off of you. But he didn't
right.
get a chance to live off her long because he didn't live. That prompted me to sit up in my bed. I got dressed, laid down the bed, sit up, made that video. And then from there, you reached out and you were like, this is a message that young women need to know or that women in general need
Right.
to know. And at that time, I think I had 11 followers. I wasn't even really on TikTok. I just set up and did it. And then from there, and what I really like about you is that you get the message out. Like I don't consider myself a content creator because having been a news anchor and done network news, that it's almost kind of like I struggle with it because we have this snobbery about us as journalists, like, oh, you're doing social media instead of being on CNN, where you can be like Don Lemons and lose your job. By the way, I know Don, he's a very good person. I think he needs to do social media. Don, if you're watching this, you need to do it. But yeah, so it's kind of like this thing where initially I was ashamed to do it. And when the video blew up, I was embarrassed because my friend, what are you doing? Because they always think you're going to go back to TV news, and TV news frowns upon social media. And they were like, oh, you're just ruining your television career. I'm like, which I haven't been in 5 years.
Right.
So yeah, but you reached out, and I love the fact that you are with a different generation. I was your age when all of this hospice care wifery stuff started happening. When I
Right.
got in my 40s, that's when all my friends who had always been single, news anchors, traveled the world, flight attendants. That was another career I did. I was a flight attendant supervisor. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be a nurse. I really am going to be a nurse, and I'm going to have a purse, but I'm not going to give it to a man.
Okay.
So, yeah. And so I like that you are the target audience because there are women that are in their 40s and their 30s and people in their 20s. Oh, well, he's trying to talk to me now, but when he gets older, he's probably going to. No, he is. I'm here to tell you, I'm in the generation above, and it is. The guy that I
You
thought I
you
was going to
know,
marry called me crying.
you said my generation. I'm not that much younger. Yeah, I'm 42. But I want to get to the 20s. I want to get down to the teens because what I am noticing, number one, the dudes in their 30s, they are not aging well at all. You know, their daddies, their daddies were in the 90s. Their daddies were out there drinking the Hennessy, eating the hot wings, going through the fast life. Their daddies were part of that generation that was selling the drugs, and now their generation is a generation that came up taking them. So their bodies from the inside out are putrefying. They're putrefying. And so they are about to start targeting these fresh out of high school, these young girls. So we're talking my demographics that I notice are in their mid 20s to
Oh, thank you.
50s. I want to
So
get
glad.
younger.
I'm
I
glad.
want to prepare teenagers for what's coming because it's about to get real here. These men are about to start really targeting us because they're not living well and the medical field is failing. And so, what's going to happen to these dudes? Because our generation, my generation, your generation, we're opting out. We're saying we're good. We're good, homie. So they're going to go younger and younger and younger. So we need to
Mm.
make sure that these girls and these young ladies are prepared.
Well, I was thinking about this, and it occurred to me that I have an example. See this nice banana that I have here, and and
Yes.
I and I wonder if any of your followers like. I love banana pudding. I love it. Do you like it?
Okay.
You like banana pudding?
I do, depending
Okay.
on who made it.
Depending on who made it. So, when my mom used to make it, we'd go to the store and we'd get these fresh bananas, and then she'd come home and cut them up. She wouldn't let us do anything with these bananas. What I realized is that Black men, they age like bananas in the sun. And so when I was talking in the last video that we discussed is that men, all of us, we must make choices. We must make decisions when we have choices. And what
Yes.
happens is they allow themselves to expire. So they look like this in the beginning because genetically we were bred over here in America for it to be this nice, perfect banana. It's perfect, right? But
Yes.
then they stick around and stay out in the field or leave this banana out. Like if your mom was making the pudding and she left this banana out, just say she put it on the counter and left it on the counter for 10 days to go visit you.
Right. Oh
It would
no.
end up looking like this. And this is what a lot of men in our community, they think they still look like this, but they look like this.
Right.
They're smelly, they're old, they're gross. And I would peel this back to look at the layers. And so any of you young women that are in your 20s, when they get about 40, they're not going to be like this. They're going to be like this. And if I peel back the layers on this of the men that are in my age group, you little 18-year-olds that think he's going to be a sugar daddy, it's smelly, it's soft, it's sticky, and it's something that you don't want to be a part of. So what I would say, if there were any men, when you are like this and you have choices, nobody's going to buy this from the grocery store. But what we've had is we've had women that are like, oh, they're the same. Well, we've got to lower our standards. Would you rather have this banana or would you rather have this one? And so therefore they need to make choices when they're here. If you leave anything out too long, it will expire. And that is
Right.
what's happened with a lot of men in our community. They have they have expired.
Right. They have expired in their body, but their brains they have stuck and stayed on the age of 21. And it's not catching up to the fact that they now have a postpartum belly. They now have boobs that their hearts is not that great. They're gonna go the way of their goddaddy that passed away. So they are not paying attention and they are stuck. They are stuck on their own rhetoric. Like literally, we are making videos, we're talking, we're typing
Mhm.
things. They don't listen to us.
They have it all figured out. And we try, they ask a question and tell us what the answer is.
That's what they do. Like,
Yes.
they will literally say, "Well, that's because you guys want a guy that is 6 feet tall, that makes six figures, that has six pairs of shoes." And it was like, no, we want somebody that's emotionally intelligent, that helps out in the household, and that can work as a partner. Well,
Well, you know,
that's why you're gonna have a cat.
and that's what someone said to me one time, so I'm a petite woman, right? I am 5'2" at best. Ooh, at best. I'm
I'm
five
five
two.
feet. Hold up,
Oh,
I'm 5 feet and a half
there
of
you
an inch.
there
I'm
you
five
go.
feet.
So what would I look like? And I have like when I, especially when I was in college, I would have these basketball players, these big tall guys that wanted to talk to me, and I was never interested in them because they were so big, and I felt like a kid. My hand is up here to hold their hand. They're big. Their feet are big. I like small furniture. They're sitting all sprawled out on your furniture. So this whole idea that every woman wants a man that's 6'5", that's what they think. See, every man, and I have figured it out. Every man like Tyler Perry, thinks that they have this image of what is an attractive man. And an attractive man to them is one that's feminine and that looks pretty. You notice all the men in the Tyler Perry movies, if he picks out a man and he's going to be the tough man, they all look so huge and feminine. So they're thinking, okay, he's a man, he's 5'11". Okay, if I'm 5'11", then if I was going to date a dude, I'd want him to be 6'5". And they're looking at these pretty men like nobody wants a man that's that pretty and soft.
Right.
I mean, if that's the case, you might as well just get with a woman. If you're going to get with a man that's pretty and soft, but that's what they think, that they have this idea of what we want. And we tell them what we want. For example, my college fiance that I thought I was going to marry, he said
Hmm.
to me at a job interview in his city, our plan is that he was going to finish law school. I was going to finish undergrad. He was going to go and build a law firm in his city and become the mayor, but we were going to do this together. So he was going to go build his law firm up. And when you start out in TV news, you don't start out at CNN or the network. You start at a
Right.
little podunk news station, right? Carrying
Right.
your own equipment. And I worked my way up, and I worked really hard to work my way up because he lived in a major city. So instead of going to network news, I was going to work my way up to a top city in that state, which would be a large market, be the main anchor there. I was going to move there, be a reporter. We were going to get married. I was going to move up to anchor. We were going to have children. He was going to run for mayor. And then I was going to be the mayor's wife. I got the job in his city. I got the job. I did my part. I was
Right.
26 years old, and they started a network news for our state. And I went there and I interviewed for that job. And at 26 years old, I got that job, which would be the equivalent in that state of being on network news, which was
Right.
higher
Okay.
than what I wanted. And it happened to open up in his city. It was a new news network that they were building. Went there, did the interview, came out. They flew me in. He came to pick me up. It was in the 90s. He had his little Eddie Bauer expedition. He drives up to come and get me. And I'm thinking, there's my husband. He had designer sunglasses on. He just looked tinted windows. He had a suit on. He'd left the courthouse to come and pick me up. And I look at him and I get ready to get in the car. And we hadn't seen each other for an extended period of time because we lived in two different cities. And he looks over and I'm like, I'm waiting to tell him, our dreams have come true. I got it.
Right.
We get married to do, move on with our lives. And I get in the car and he just looks at me and I'm thinking he's going to be, hey, honey, how did it go? How did it go? And he just looks back and he like takes his sunglasses, looks down at me, puts it back up. And I'm like, I didn't even know what happened. And I just looked at him and I was like, hey, like that. And he's like, yeah, my mama said, you just go move here and make me marry you.
Oh.
And I was waiting for him to say, and I said, no, mama, that's the woman I want to marry. I want to be with
Right.
her. And I
Right.
want to, he
And
didn't say anything. And I went,
oh
oh, she did
wow.
that, huh? And so I looked away. Now we didn't have cell phones in that time. He had to stop to get gas. I moved his Gucci sunglasses or whatever they were, moved them out the way. Phone calls were 50 cents. We were at a 7-Eleven. Got the 50 cents, went over to the payphone and turned down the job. I didn't know nobody in that city. I was 26 years old. I
Wow.
didn't know anybody in that city. I turned down a network news job and took a lesser job in
Wow.
California. And I didn't tell him about that until 3 years ago that I made that
Wow.
decision. when we went on, and as I started to move away from him, I said, okay, I said, I'm getting ready to move to California, and which was way away from where we lived, or the state that we lived in. I said, I'm getting ready to move to California. I said, so, what are we going to do here? We need to make some decisions. It's just hard for me to make a decision because, black men tell me all the time, man, older black men tell me all the time, man, you young, you good looking, you an attorney, you can get any woman that you want. I said, the woman that you want should be the one that loves you and that you love. Yeah, but it's just hard for me. I went to California, and the end of that story is that in 2021 he called me up crying. He had a heart attack, a stroke. He's on kidney dialysis. He married a white woman with a baby.
Oh
She took
wow.
all of his money, and
Wow.
through domestic violence, she ended up having him arrested. He's not practicing law anymore. He's living with his mother. And then he wanted to know, we had such great love back then. Would you ever think about getting married?
It,
And so I married him. We lived happily ever after.
right.
Lie. I
So
said to him,
that
go, just talk, because I got to let it process, because I just can't even
so
believe that he did it.
so the thing is like they have such audacity that I just wish that we had just a modicum of what they come with, because the fact that he could see how used up he was. He gave the best part of his life to somebody else. And now that he is used up, has no nutrients left in his little banana, if the little banana don't work the way it's supposed to work, now he wants to come and give you all of what he got. And the crazy thing is, they lead so much with their team. They lead so much with it. And then it's like, okay, I need to give this to as many people as I can give it to because I am me. And I need to bless all of y'all with this team. And then once they are used up, once their organs are failing from the inside out, it's like, okay, cool. Now who can I call up that's going to take care of me?
Well, since you mentioned that little thing of ED, that
Uh-oh.
little thing of ED, I actually did
Uh-oh.
a little research on it. And from the Office of Minority Health, looking through their stats and combining with some others, because you can find stats on anything, but being a journalist and having been an investigative reporter, I combined several stats from several different agencies, and I came up with that men in our community between the ages of 40 and up, I'll say, they have ED. We know what that is. 25 to 50%.
Wow.
25 to 50% of Black men already have ED by the time they get 40.
Wow.
And if
And
you want to look at
that thing
diabetes,
that is not supposed to be working like that. Before she continues, y'all, go ahead and like the live so it'll get into the algorithm even more. But yes,
and you have to
I
forgive
am
me because
like
I'm
I
a
keep saying.
talker. So if you need to just jump in there, or if anybody has any questions or anything, yeah, I would love to take those. But you have to cut me off, because when I start talking to you, I can't stop talking.
But what's crazy is, like I said, I am 42 years old and I still feel fairly vibrant. I got a little left knee issue, and you wake up and have to do a little extra stretching, but my body's not falling apart. And as Black women, we are aging still like the whole black don't crack type of thing, but their crackation is holleration in this dancery. We are feeling it. They are feeling it. And they can't really say black don't crack anymore.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that, it's really hard, certainly when you get your age and my age. And I know you're married, but when you are an unmarried woman, it's so hard because you're looking at a man and he's trying to talk to you, and you're looking at him, you're like, because their conversation, you can tell the conversation, because man, you can't tell how old somebody is. Let them open their mouth up. I guarantee you I can tell. So I'll be looking at a man and he will walk up and he'll be 52, right? He's sort of like, oh, this 52-year-old guy. And we start talking and having a conversation. I start talking about New Edition and Bobby Brown. And he's like, And then I'll be like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, you must be a youngster. He's 52 in my mind. I'm 32. How long you been walking? 32 years old. Looking like they look as old as me. I'm like, you're 30, you're not supposed to look my age.
Right.
And that's what makes
Selena,
it so hard because they think they can talk to anybody because they can't obviously they can't tell how old we are, but I'd be
right,
thinking that they old.
right. I do want to say thank you, Selena, for the donation. I appreciate that 9.99. Thank you so much. That'll help, get something for Chrissy because that's my
Oh.
princess. Okay, but yes, they are getting old, and I keep talking about this, but these man boobs are bothering me because they are getting, and they still have the nerve to not wear a shirt. They are still going out. They be running. They tatas be bouncing, and they are not supposed to have bouncing tatas. It's just not how life is supposed to be because they have no reason to have bouncing tatas.
Well, since you mentioned that, one of the things that I was thinking about doing, being an entrepreneur, is coming up with a man bra. It's getting a prototype for a man bra because some of these men they need to wear bras. You need the cleavage. Like you can't work out if your nipples are hitting you in the face. And some of them they are double D's. And so
Right.
I would think that, and I actually really thought about it, actually did a little sketch of a bra for a man. They need bras, or even like some of you guys, if you're listening, get some like tape. They can get some of that sports tape and wrap it around your chest because nobody wants to see a man with cleavage.
Pull it up. Just pull it up.
Yeah,
And
pull it up.
oh man, yeah.
Oh,
And
breast
I don't
reduction is
want,
also an option.
huh?
A breast reduction is also an option for them.
Right. And we are some women, and most of the people that are in these comment section are women. Um, we have got to be able to pivot to see what is coming. So we need, like you're talking about becoming a nurse. There are going to be all kind of ways to take their money because they don't want to invest correctly now. They're going to be paying for it on the back end. They're going to be in dialysis. I'm seeing all of these dialysis places pop up. I'm seeing, they're going to need canes. So we're going to need some blinged out canes. We're going to need some blinged
Mm.
out CPAP machines because they like the ice and the rose gold and all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
We need to put some sparkling water in some champagne bottles.
Yeah, and maybe like the oxygen, you can have like a little gold chain. They can have like a little chain link around like the oxygen devices. Bling out
Right.
the mask for them, and
We're
I
gonna
was
have
thinking
we're gonna
about because so many are in kidney dialysis. I had an elderly friend that was like a mother to me. Now, of course, she was 76 years old, and I would take her to kidney for her dialysis treatments. And I walked in there one day, and every black man I knew was in there. They're like, "Hey, Candace," I'm like, "Oh, hey, what you doing?" They were all in there. I'm thinking, y'all all on dialysis. That's why all of y'all got these black blotches everywhere. But here's what I was thinking: if we could start like a circuit or like a comedy tour to go around to the dialysis, where you got all these black men and they're having dialysis. We could maybe have like New Edition and groups come in there and perform for them. They could pay a little bit more for that. We could do like some poetry slams in there while they're in there laying down getting their dialysis. I mean, there's just so many ways that we need to start thinking as black women how we can make money off of them.
right. Because what I'm seeing, and the information is out there, and I am one to scroll and I read and I listen to women. Grown daughters are opting out. Now that grown daughters are opting out of taking care of parents that were abusive or abandoned them, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're not going to have any choice except, I mean, because that they're not going to just all of a sudden start banding together and become really good friends with their other friends and then start cleaning up their own houses. They're not going to do that. Like us women, we're creating mommies, we're creating the Golden Girls type of thing for 2023. Women are doing that. What are they going to do? They're going to be expiring in their homes, like they think that we are.
And I've had
So,
three uncles that have been found that very way. My father found two of them. We just went to the house to go check on them. These are the cute guys in town that were, back in the day in the platforms with the afros, driving the Cadillacs and everything. And then my dad would be like, we didn't know where Uncle so and so was. My dad go over there and try to push open the door, can't get open the door. They'd been dropped deceased right there in the doorway. And nobody's looked for them in, 6 or 7 weeks, because if you don't pour into anything, you don't have anything in your cup.
Right. And that's what I say all the time. Pour into the people that pour into you. Pour into the people who have poured into you. And that's where they are going wrong. And this is what I really want to talk to the women about, because we know good and well that the men aren't going to listen to us. We have got to deprogram the need to be there for everybody. I want us to become unbothered about how we look. Like, oh my God, you're not taking care of your dad. Oh my God, you're not taking care of your toxic mom. Oh my, like, we have got to stop caring so much. If they
Mhm.
weren't there, if they weren't supporting you, if they weren't loving you, if they weren't watering that relationship, then they give them the energy that they gave you.
Mhm.
That's what I say.
Yeah. And I would say, even in my current relationship, and this is, I was out of a relationship, and the current person that I'm seeing now was my junior high boyfriend. And then he was captain of the football team, and I was cheerleader, and we dated then, and we ran back into each other because of my sister passed away. I hadn't seen him in 20, 30 years. Well, yeah, about 30 years. He came to my sister's homegoing, and that's how we ran into each other. And from there, we started talking, and he could see that I was just broken. My sister and I, we had a business together. We owned a home together, and he could just see. And when I got home, there was media paparazzi standing at my front door. And having come from media, and that being my little sister, was too much. So he said, you know what? Just come here. And, it was closer to some family that I have. And so I came here. But one of the things that he has said that he has been struggling with, and I know he's watching this now, and he even said to me, what he's struggling with is that he says, uh, that he's always, every woman that he's dated, and he had been married, was divorced for 10 years, is that they would serve as a counselor for him. And so when
Mm,
he would have problems, he could bounce it off of them and talk to them that. Well, first of all, I hadn't gotten into this headspace of realizing that I didn't have to do that, but I was in such mourning that I couldn't do it. When he would come to me with something like, well, this happened, I was like, I can't handle that right now. I'm laying on your couch right now, deciding whether or not I'm going to go jump off of a bridge. So I can't handle it right now. So he understood it. But when I got back to being myself, he started coming to me with some things. And I just looked at him, and I just said one time, and he's like, well, what do you think? And I go, well, I think you need to go see a counselor, because that's not my profession. And you need to get that figured out. And he came a few more times with that. And then finally he said, he said, I never thought about that with my exes. I could always go to them and they would help me talk through things. You don't give me that. And so for there, we had a struggle with that. And then finally he realized, upon reading and researching, because he happens to be one of the intelligent ones, that he thinks with that and this, that he was able to find a clue and figure out that, what, some things I need to go to somebody else, like talk to your buddies about that. I'm not your homeboy, you know.
right,
I'd call your mom, your stepdad's over there, you better call them. And so I think it has made our relationship better and stronger, in that he knows that you got something that's going on. Hey,
right,
you hungry? I already ate.
right,
Defeat
right.
yourself.
So that's the thing. We as women are we're like miniature mines, like miniature gold mines. And we know it and they know it. But actually for the longest time, I don't think that we knew it. I think that we saw them as the treasure. But we're the ones that have the emotional intelligence. They can't really call up their homeboy like, I am really struggling at work, Ken. I am really struggling at work, Eric. It's just something about what Bob is saying to me at work. It just doesn't sit right here. They can't do that. They'll be like, let's go get a beer and let's go play basketball. So they'll do something that is an action, but they're not speaking to the mental well being of themselves. They look to us as women. And so this is what we as women need to understand, that health and wellness is a multi layered equation. It is mental, it's physical, emotional, and financial. And they look to us. They look to drain our life force to sustain them, because they do not have it's not sustaining in them. Their energy and their life force is not sustaining. So they look to us. So what I want us as Black women to keep doing is to recognize that we are a resource and that we have to protect our time, energy, and resources. And that includes who we allow to tap into our
Mm.
mental, because they will take our life force and then we will be sucked dry and drained.
And see, I'm learning from you and the journalist in me. I pull out there are times when you're talking and I'm watching your videos because I know you put in the time to do the research that I used to do as a journalist. I take notes. So if you see me writing, I'm taking notes on that. And it was something that you said that we have to guard who we pour our resources into because we can be depleted. And I think that kind
Yes.
of goes along the lines of when you talk about how we have friends and just the way that we move as women. You notice that I said I am lying on a couch, depressed, and my friend gets on a plane and flies from Paris to the United States, gets a
Right.
hotel, and says, "Come over here." But
Yes.
I noticed that with none of the men that I've been involved, none of the men in my family, they don't have it like that. I mean, there was a time when my mom was having just like a really rough time after having my sister, and she was going through postpartum. And I remember her laying on the couch. I didn't know what was wrong with her. We didn't know what it was at the time, and I called up her oldest sister and I was like, she says, Mama's just laying on the couch. I don't know what's wrong with her. Right. And my aunt, who was borderline dementia, she was overweight. She could barely walk. They had to lift her up to put her, she was bedridden. That's what I'll say.
Hmm.
And she kept calling. My mom wouldn't come to the phone. She got somebody to put her in a truck, her husband and her sons to put her in the back of a truck. She came rolling up at the house. They lifted her out of the truck and she walked in there. She's like, Dooney, you get up out that bed. Do you hear me? You get up out that bed. You're gonna eat, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that. And she got my sister and she like had the baby holding it. She told us all to get up and like direct the house and everything. And then my mom was just like, I'm not getting up. So Dooney, you get up out that bed. And and from that day forward, my mom was like she thought it was so funny. She started laughing and she started to come back. But we have those type of relationships. What man can say and they down for their homies and I stick with my homeboys? How many of y'all have a friend that flew from Paris to come in to get you off of a couch?
Right.
My best friend, Honey, that lives not too far from here. She said, I was here laying on the couch and depressed, come to my place. Went to her place. I'm there for a month. They say, what is it? Guests and fish start to smell after 3 days. After 3 days, she was like, okay, you're moving in this bedroom. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. And she's like, she would not let me leave until she felt that I was better. She
Right.
wouldn't let me leave her house. And so I was like, well, I guess it's time for me to go. I'm not taking you to the airport. You're not going nowhere. Well, I already have my flight booked. Well, you better cancel it because you ain't going nowhere. I got the keys and she did not let me leave until I got into the headspace. And then I came back to my guy's place and I was like, look, she's back.
Right.
And from there, but pour it into me, pour it into me. We pour into each other.
Right. And that is the reason why I want the women of right now to stop dropping your friendships, your hobbies, and all of that simply because you have a man. I have a husband. I have been married almost 10 years. I still communicate heavily with women because I don't know what it is. For the longest time, and this is because, and you know this as a media person, men have been in charge of media, men have been in charge of what books come out. And so they have written the narrative that women don't like women, that older women are jealous of younger women. There is nothing as a 42-year-old woman that I am jealous of a 22-year-old woman. I have been there. I've already done that. I'm not jealous of the younger women. I don't care. Like, I don't, it's not that I don't care, but I'm not in competition with 20 people that are in their 20s. It's just not happening. And so, but they have created that narrative that we are just like, women.
Yeah. I agree with you. They have created that narrative, and I feel that I know that they've done that so that we don't communicate with each other. Like, how many of the young women that are watching today have gone out with the guy, and the first thing he starts saying, "Oh, I got this crazy ex girlfriend. She's crazy, and she's a stalking me." I'm like, what is so wonderful about you that someone started? I had a friend like that. She's dating a dude. He's overweight, stutters, lived with his mother, didn't have pot piss in, when to throw it out of, and she was like, "Yeah, she's a doctor." Yeah, he's got this crazy ex and she's following him around and she's been driving by her daughter's school. And that's where I drew the line. I was like, wait a minute. Because, if you're my friend, your kids are my nieces and nephews. I'm like, oh, she driving by her school? Oh, that's over here in my neighborhood. Let me know the next time she drives by. Better yet, let me do some research. Research found out who the woman was. The woman, it's like if you walk into the city that we lived in at the time, if you walked into the city, her picture was on the front wall of City Hall. I'm like, what is so wonderful about this dude that she's stalking him? She owns property out the country. And I just did a whole extensive research on him. I'm like, it's what is so she was, he was a homosexual and she tried to take him in like a little puppy and try to nurse him back to health. And now my friend, the doctor's trying to nurse him back to health. He was using the woman at City Hall to make the doctor think that she had a prize. We've got to stop doing that. And the other thing that we've got to stop, sis, is we've got to stop with that narrative of the crazy woman, of the crazy ex.
Right.
Because all of us have been the crazy ex. Let them tell it. Every man that I dated in my 20s and that I broke up with, or that broke up with me, that you would meet down the line, meet the woman that he was dating. Oh, yeah, he said that you was crazy. He said you was doing this and you was doing, so that they wouldn't talk to me and I could say, oh, okay, he drove my car to go get it clean and stole $20 out of the glove compartment, then lied and had me writing a letter to the car wash company that they stole money out. And then they had the video of their people never stealing anything. He stole it. So that we don't communicate. So that's what they make. Right. They pit us against each other so that we don't talk. But they sure talk. They talk.
And that's the reason why they keep trying to get me pulled off. They keep flagging me. They don't want me talking. And then what they try to do is, well, why are you talking like this and you a married woman? But then also they'll be like, well, to the single women, well, why you talking? You single. What you know about anything? And then they don't know that we're just talking to each other. The single women are talking to the married women, are talking to the divorced women. So we getting all of the information, because what in generations past, because we didn't have social media, we didn't have the instantaneous sharing of information. We all thought that we were the problem. Like, this is us. What do I need to do better? What class do I need to take as a woman? Is there a wife school to be better? But it's not us. It's not us. Even the most mediocre of wives is still probably doing the majority of the stuff in the house.
Mm-hmm. So what we were doing, like, so in my era, our social media and our counseling came from TD Jakes. Now, I don't consider myself a Christian. And when I'm talking about God, I'm talking about her. I'm talking about the divine feminine. But I remember in my era, there was and it was about, I guess, like in the 90s, I think. We were in our 20s in the 90s in my era. And it was TD Jakes with The Woman Thou Art Loose. He had this big old campaign about what we as Black women needed to do. And it was, we need to better ourselves. They wanted us to be these perfect women so that when the men, and then men would come back, they wanted us to allow the men to run out and get all these skeletons, defile themselves, have babies, mixed match babies up and down everywhere. And then we would be sitting in the church waiting for them, and they could come and cleanse themselves with inside of us. And that's what we listened to. And that's where I went through a whole thing, especially after that whole thing with the fiance, having dated him. And I don't want to get too far off topic. I don't know why my parents even allowed me to date him. I was living at home. I was 18 years old, had grown up as a Jehovah's Witness, had never been out on a date. And the first man that they let me go out onto a date with comes and picks me up at my house, is 26 years old, a worldly man that's been to the military and all these other places. And the only thing that he did was pressure me into intimacy. That's all he did. Everything was about the very first date. All he did was badger. That's the other thing we've got to do. We've got to stop raising our girls to be so naive. We've got to teach them the game. You walk into a barbershop there and they're telling them the game. We're in the beauty shop talking about how pretty she is and you better keep yourself clean because you gotta be a good woman because you're a good woman.
Right.
They'll put you.
And so that's another issue with women talking to women in times past. It like we don't have the built up immunity to their games because we tell the girls, keep your legs closed and stay in them books. No dating until, for me, it was no dating until I was at least 16. But you don't create the immunity. You're not prepared for these males. And what I don't like about some women, even right now, where they're like, well, why didn't you see the red flags? Because we're not given the information to see these red flags. Like literally, we see like we don't have that game. We don't have that foundation to see these games that men play until now, where we're like, this is a red flag. This is a siren going off. So, we have got to get out of the purity culture of religion where girls have to be virginal, white as snow, and then you're gonna have this man with his toxic baby batter coming and skeeting into all of these pure snow white virgin pure
Mhm.
girls, and now we're defiled because they have been running rampant.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that because, and like I said, we're going to talk about, and I'll give the name of my girls program. I've had it since 2009, but I'm actually launching it where I am now, which is across the country from where I used to live. And that was one of the things when I was forming the program. I did a lot of research. I spent over $100,000 putting together the program, and I would look for women, and this was in the early to mid 2000s, and I was trying to find women because it's a perfect formula of building self-esteem in girls. I've had more than 800 girls that have graduated. None of them were teen mothers. They all went into career jobs. They went to college. Some are have graduated college, and they now have girls programs that they're running.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things is that I really try to promote is making sure that we pour into the girls, that we teach them how important it is to not put all of their value in purity. And as I was saying, when I would try to find women to open up various chapters, because everybody wanted the program in the state that I was in, they would always come with this purity platform. And I do not believe in it. And I had one woman that I thought would be just absolutely wonderful with this, actually in the state that I'm in now, that I want to launch the program. But she's like, well, I've got to put that purity element in there. And then I explained, she started it. And then I explained to her, here's the reason why we can't go with the purity element. Let me tell you why we can't go with the purity element, because too many of our girls have been molested. Too
Right.
many of our girls have been. And I had, with my program, I had a young lady that came from foster care. She was 15 years old. And my girls were asked to go to be on a panel. And there was an organization, a fraternity that was having a young men's forum for boys that were, I think, 11 to like 16. And they said, well, we want some girls to be on the panel. So I had some of my girls that were sitting on the panel, and the others were sitting out in the audience. And they were just having, it was just a great conversation for young people to have. And they were asked the girls questions, they'd ask the boys questions. And one of the little girls that had come out of foster care, just very, very naive, who had been essayed by her father from the age of 7 to 14. And that's why she had been taken out of the home. She was put into a Black woman's home, and that Black foster mom brought her to me. And she's sitting out in the audience. And somehow it came up about being a virgin came up. And because it was a real honest conversation that we were having. And so she stood up and asked a question. And her question is, well, being naive, this poor baby, if you've been great. I don't know if we can say it on live. If you've been essayed by your father, would you still be considered a virgin? It was at least 500 people there. And it shocked me. But guess what? We were in an audience, and it was such a pure conversation that none of the boys laughed. None of the girls laughed. Nobody. She didn't even know what she had said. And it was a young man there, and he was They were alphas, and he was about, I say probably about 25 or something like that. And he just gave, and I won't be able to say it as well as he said it, but he said to her, young lady, no, none of us in here, would any of you all consider that, and every boy in there start clapping their hands, and it just is just that we just happen to be in an environment in which, and that is why I don't believe in that whole purity thing, because too many of our girls have been assaulted by their fathers, by their brothers, by grown men in the community. You cannot, especially for Black girls, when they are so victimized, you can't be doing these purity programs because it makes them feel dirty.
And some of us, and not me, but I go hard for these women and these girls because of the trauma in their life as children. They act out in certain ways as they become adults. And so when a woman is, promiscuous as an adult, if she is overeating as a coping mechanism, if she is abusive towards her children because she was abused, it's like at some point in time, we have got to look at people in their totality of humanness and get to the bottom of it, because of trauma causes reactions that are not natural. What people do to cope, to survive, is not natural. Now, I used to be a personal trainer, right? And so when I became a personal trainer, I'm like, I'm going to help people. I'm going to give people the perfect workout. We're going to do this. I'm going to give them some diet stuff. We're going to get this. But then I was in it for a few years, and they are talking to me. I cannot help somebody that is not going to be helped because they were defeated as a child because their mother wouldn't put them in dance class. But I can't help a woman who is taking care of her elderly parents and her husband who is has failing health and has teenage kids. Like, you kind of become a therapist of sorts, because your health and wellness and how you live is a factor of everything. It's not, if you were born into a two-parent household. No. What if you were born into an urban center that has a failing school? What if it's unsafe to walk down the street and you are flight or fight, and now you're cussing and fussing at everybody because that is your fight or flight hormone trying to keep you safe. So there are so many different things that go into it, and that is the reason why we have to continue to have these conversations, because so many of us get on our high horse like, I haven't been victimized yet because I put on a jacket and I
Yeah.
am, I am modest, and I just, well, good for you. I'm glad that you're lucky. I'm lucky too. But that doesn't mean that this young girl, this young woman is supposed to go through what she went through.
And going in line with what you're saying, when my sister and I had our ballet program, we had a mother that was in the program, and to this day, I really wish that I had put them out of the program. So the mother, non-Black, married to a Black man, very well known, has written books, and in the region that they're in, they're very well known. Well, they had daughters, and those daughters were in our program. The mother had been essay. She grew up in a family. Now, first of all, you are a man studying to be a minister, but you go marry a woman that's an atheist and bring her into a church of Black people and make her the first lady of the church. That's mistake number one. Then you make her become a Christian, and then she has your biracial children, and then you bring them to a Black program and feel that they're better than all the other children because the children are fully Black and yours are just biracial. And she'd written all these books about being supportive to women. All this, she's purports to be someone who believes in female empowerment. And she just made our program, the whole while that she had our children in the program, it was just a living nightmare every time she showed up. And let me tell you why. There are a lot of women who have been assaulted and traumatized as children who have not gotten help. And they believe that helping themselves is keeping their child from going through the same thing. So, as one of my friends, Doris Marie Jones, said to me, she was a professor for many years and also a counselor and one of my spiritual moms. She says that trauma, that it can become imprinted and imprinted into a person's DNA. And she said what they found in the studies that they had done is that people that were, a woman that was SA'd at say 8 years old, that traditionally what ends up happening is her daughter will be too. And I thought, well, how could that happen? Well, the thing about it is that she would she made it was very difficult to run the program. She didn't want anybody to take her daughters to the bathroom, even though they're like 10 and 11. By that point, you can't walk them down to the bathroom. She wanted them to be covered up in dance class. And every time she would come to the studio, it would always be some creepy man was walking around and she had to keep her kids from being essayed. And the children would be so calm and so carefree. And as soon as she'd walk up, they'd get this heightened sense of alertness to make sure that they help their mom guard, to make sure that nobody touched them. And in those cases, women, if you have been victimized, you need to get help, because you're going to make your kids crazy because they have no discernment. I mean, at one point, she walked in and one of them was sitting in a grandmother's lap. We had a 78 that I mentioned that was in kidney dialysis, a 78-year-old grandmother sitting in a rocking chair. And she walks in and her daughter had gotten injured or was crying for one reason. She's laid across her. Why is she laid across her lap? You need to go get help, because then it makes it very uncomfortable for everyone else around. We're a bunch of women running a program for girls, but you're running around treating us like your kids are so special that everybody wants to assault them.
Right.
Get the counseling that you need so that you can help your children. You cannot heal yourself by having been molested as a child. You can't heal yourself from keeping your child from being molested, because the way you're raising them, the studies show, according to Dorisbury Jones, that you are setting them up, and whether it be you're manifesting it or what, but it ends up happening to your children because you didn't get the help for yourself.
Yeah, and this is also why we have to stop weaponizing people's trauma and weaponizing people's abuse, because it creates that shame, like something, I did something wrong. I should have done this a little bit better, and then he wouldn't have done that. And so then, because they have that shame factor, they don't want to get help because they shouldn't have gone through it in the first place. And so that cycle, we're stopping the cycle right now. We're going to
Well, that's
keep
all
talking about this, and we're going to
true.
keep, huh?
I'm just a co-signing on what you're saying. Yes, I think that that's true. And we have a lot of women that are raising daughters that feel that, like you said, I covered up so it didn't happen to me. That one mother, she realized that she had a lot of trauma in behind that. She got breast, and her mother's man, was inappropriate with her. And so because we actually started in our program having meetings and conversations, which that mother would never come to. We started talking about that. I did begin to address that with the parents. What trauma have you been through? I had a group of counselors to come in to talk to each of the mothers individually if they had something to talk about. And we talked about, this trauma and what you have been through. And one mother came, and when one of the sessions that we had, she had a revelation that she was having issues with her daughter going into puberty, because she felt somehow that it was going to attract men, or that when her daughter walked by in her dance clothes and her leotard, that she felt like that she was, trying to be seen by the boys and trying to do more. And she said, I had to realize that it's me, and I'm going through that because when I hit puberty, this is what my mother's boyfriend did to me. And so I'm associating that with my daughter hitting puberty. And I hope that somebody listening to this today will recognize that it's not your daughter, it's you. You've got to get help.
Whew. So I told you I needed to do a hard stop because I have two kids and we got to get ready for the day. I like
They
to
got
do this in
taekwondo. Don't they have that taekwondo testing today?
the kids have a taekwondo belt test at 2, so I have a little time. Typically we would be doing swim lessons, but today is taekwondo testing. um I Obviously, you know that you and I can keep on talking. The people in the comment section see that this is going to be a valuable discussion. What I'm going to do with this live, because it's an hour long, and I know that people don't always have the capacity to sit through hour-long videos, I'm going to create some bits and pieces and upload them and have some chunks. And I know you're probably going to say yes to me, but could I get you back on my live?
You don't even have to ask. You do not, because I was already thinking that I feel that we need to do this again. We need to
Oh my
finish
God.
this.
Oh my God, Serene, thank you so much. 49.99 will really help me in some capacity. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I feel really blessed that I'm able to, and I'm tearing up, I'm able to help people and genuinely feel like I'm helping in some capacity, and I get paid for it. Like literally, I feel like all of the reading, all of the talking to women, my children get to benefit. I get to go to swim lessons with my kids. I get to go to taekwondo with my kids, and I feel like I'm actually helping Black women.
May I say this? This is the one last thing I'm going to say. You chose a man, and a man chose you that allowed you to sit into in your feminine energy until you were able to manifest what we talked about a year ago. Remember what we
Mm,
talked about?
yes. Okay. I'm literally about to kind of start crying. Yes, guys, we're going to do this. I'm going to upload these videos. I'm going to break it down into bite-sized things, and I'm going to jump on the phone with Candace and create something. We're going to create something.
Sounds good. And y'all go to my all of my social media is the same
Oh
name,
yes,
Original Candace Kelly
yes.
News. So go there and jump in. Let's
All
talk.
right, all right. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Tell the kids I said do good. Call me and let me know how they do.
Yes, you know I will.
Tell them
All
Auntie
right,
Candy
y'all.
loves them.
Bye.